was in one of these sort of elite sort of platoons within my first infantry unit, and that's what I was doing. And but what happened was we'd be watching it a terrorist position, and then if we saw movement and we thought likely weapons or anything, what happened was, or we thought we saw a specific guy what they really wanted going into the certain house, we got moved out, and these other guys come in, and these other guys were just there was something different about them. For one, they look like tramps. They've got massive hairdos, they got beards, they're just something different, but they're in a uniform. I'm like, what's going on here? They pulled us out because if this was going to go down, and then you bring in the SAS to do the job. And I was told that afterwards that's what who these big boys were or blokes were. I'm like, wow, I want some of that. I want to be on the reactive side of it, you know? So that was my first indication. That's what got me wanting to go into the SAS. But a funny story, what happened was after that, I was only young, I was only 20. So I said I want to go for it. But for my unit, many people had tried, but there was only, I was the third ever person get in from 1959, you know, from when our unit was formed as a proper unit. We had one officer get in and one normal rank, so I didn't know him. But this officer came back to my unit. He did 2 years as an officer because it's different how officers work there. They do 2 years and then they come back, and if they were good enough, they can go back again for more time. Anyway, he did 2 years. He come to our unit and he was a brilliant officer, just not like the normal officers what you got. He didn't care if you was, how can I say, he didn't care about the bullshit. He didn't care about doing drill or room inspections and so on. He just wanted to see that you was a good fit soldier and you could do it on the ground. But the thing was, with them, he'd be doing it with you. He would do everything. Like some other officers would come and they'd watch you doing the assault course, and they'd be with their dogs and so on, or just they were more interested in room inspections and more of the easier side of infantry. No, not him. He was all right to the point, and I looked up to this guy straight away. And then he went away, and he was telling me he was SAS, and we had a guy who went for the SAS. I goes, this is what I want to go for now. I want to do this. But this guy came back. He goes, you can't, Mal. I goes, why is that? He goes, because you're black. I goes, what's that got to do with it? He goes, oh, you know, the SAS, it's mostly an island and they're all undercover. They have to go to, go around the Belfast bar. And I thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. There's not many black guys at that time in Belfast. So I thought, okay. And I never put in my paperwork for ages because this is what I believed. But then this officer came back, and this was just before the Gulf War, and he saw me. He went, a couple of hours, I would have thought you would have gone for the SAS. And I told him that story, and he just starts laughing. He goes, obviously, you couldn't go sitting in a Belfast bar because I didn't have ginger hair and freckles, you know what I mean? I didn't look like a normal Irish guy. He goes, but you'd be on the reactive side. So when it goes down, you'd be on that side. And there's lots of it. We were involved all over the world. And he goes, go for it. So that's when I put my paperwork in, because otherwise I might have never gone for it, because it just shows you how much we didn't know anything about the SAS, especially back then, even though it all come apparent after the Iranian embassies siege that was massive all over the world. So people knew about them, but they didn't know what goes on. And to this day, they still don't know really what goes on.
That's a hilarious story. I
Yeah.
heard one guy, to tell you similar, I heard one guy who had been told that you couldn't go to Delta Force if you weren't 6 feet tall, and he was 5'10". So he didn't go at first. And then someone who was there told him that wasn't true. And then he went, and he was there for a had a very successful career. But yeah, he thought there was a height requirement that literally didn't exist whatsoever. When you go there, one of the things that I think the American audience finds very interesting is when you're in like the Army Rangers, the training is very much, I'm going to tell you what to do, you're going to do it, and I'm going to yell at you, and I'm going to be in your face. And same with like the airborne, the Q course for special forces. But then you hear guys who maybe are on Delta or SEAL Team 6, and they're like, you're on your own, no one's screaming at you. They're really not saying anything to you. You're getting instructions, and then they're going to monitor you. Is it similar over there where when you're in the lower levels, it's very disciplined, in your face, a lot of yelling, but when you go to that tip of the spear unit, it's just not operated like that.
Yeah, 100%, David. That's if you're just in a normal infantry regiment, or you're in like something like the parachute regiment, they do a bit more fitness, or the Royal Marines, they do more fitness. It's all screaming and shouting and beasting. When you go on selection, it's totally different. It's like I said, 99.9% of the time, nobody shouts at you. There's no praise saying well done, there's no pats on the back. And there's no shouting. So it's all self-discipline. So I think that can phase a lot of people out, because you've got no idea how you're doing on this course. You've got no, you think you've done, oh, I've done well there, but there's not even a smile. You've got no idea, literally. All the instructors, that's why it's a fairy selection going. They're just straight down the line. It's, there's no favoritism, no nothing like that. It was, as I said, your mind sort of goes, because a lot of people, they think they fail themselves, because they've got no idea how they're doing. But it's not like on some of these shows, or like normal formal army. So I say that for a reason, because once you go to the special forces, it's more informal. Everybody sort of just knows everybody. There's no saluting, there's no yes sir, no sir, there's no sort of ironing of your combat uniform, because you haven't got time for that bullshit. It's just, it's all first name terms, or you call the bloke in charge boss, the officer, and that's it. Whereas obviously in the normal army, you've got to have that discipline, because you've got new boys in there and so on. Everybody goes to special forces, you're there and you've in that place, so they expect you to be disciplined. That goes without saying. But yeah, there's no shouting whatsoever. It's a lot of people phase themselves out, but you can psych yourself out. And when you do something like this, I remember getting there and I expected, well, when I went to the SAS, I thought they were all going to be, you expect massive blokes. And when I finished selection, I looked, and there's only 6 SAS guys, and we're all the same. There was one guy taller than me, but apart from a couple of guys smaller, we were all just all normal blokes. But at the very beginning, I remember going there, and there's over 200 people, and I'm just sitting there. And I was the only guy go from my unit and normal infantry unit. You get a lot of paras, a lot of Marines go for it, and a lot from different units. Uh, and I was looking at the people, and I'm like, wow, these are big guys. They could walk forever with a house on the back, I'm like, they're big, strong guys, and that's what I think you needed to be. And then there was also a lot of officers on the course, and I remember lying up on their bunk bed, listening to these 2 officers, and we're talking about which university they went to and so on. And I'm like, wow, these are so educated, they were coming out with big words where I didn't understand. So I thought, A, am I fit enough for this? And B, am I intelligent enough for this? Am I going past this? But it was amazing as you go on the court, as the weeks go on, all these big lads sort of drop off. And then some of these officers, and you think the big lads who could handle all the fitness, carrying all the equipment, it just gets to them, it gets to everyone. And then some of the officers, when you think, right, they are so intelligent, they can remember all the cover stories. I couldn't believe it when you see, I saw this one officer, well, I couldn't believe that he failed the interrogation part, because obviously his mind had gone that much, he was hallucinating. He just says, I signed everything and started talking. He didn't realize he was talking, because that was the process, what they brought out. It's amazing how they do this. But yeah, so you can psych yourself out. But going back to what you were saying, there's no screaming or shouting. Sometimes you wish they would, There was, when I say 99.9%, there's the very odd time they do what's known as a sickener, and they're just a beast, and then they'll do a bit of screaming sound. But that's very, very, very rare, literally.
So what I'm unfamiliar with what you just said. What would cause that 0.1 where they would snap at you?
We had like one time in the jungle, and you have a set piece apparently that when there's a beast there, or a sickener, and we call it a sickener, so that when you think you've finished a phase, for instance, one time we was on a truck, and we get dropped off, and this is going back onto the selection phase, first of all, onto the aptitude where you're running around the mountains. And all they do, they say, this is where you are, show me where you are. Right, your next point is here. Show me. And you've got to make your way there. And it's up and down the mountains, and you don't know what time or anything. You just have to get there as fast as you can, basically. And then when you get to there, you've got to be good navigation, because you have to find what the instructor, and they're just usually in a tent somewhere waiting. And you can imagine the weather a lot of times, especially in the winter, it's just all misty and it's wet and rainy. You find them, and they say, right, you're going to this point and this point and this point. So this used to go on all day. And, you know, you on average, I don't know, you're saying about 8, 10 hours worth of tabbing, walking with this big pack on your back. And then the drive there would be take you an hour or 2 hours, and you're just in the back of a cattle wagon or a big army vehicle. We used to call them cattle wagons, but a big army vehicle. And then you get back to camp, and then it'd be the same again next day. There would just be a message this time telling you what weight, and the weight would go up and so on. So if you didn't want to get out of bed, you didn't even have to get out of bed. But the odd part was every morning you're up, you know, you're gonna have to get up about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, get ready, get on that vehicle at 5:30, and then that vehicle transports you somewhere, and then you start tabbing every single day. But sometimes they throw in a sickener, and what the sickener was, we thought it finished. We thought we was on a full day, and then it just stopped. Right, stop somewhere, give us some soup, get ready. That you start in the night tab, give you your first grids, and then we went all the way through the night, finished. Then we get on the vehicle, and we thought that was it, and it said, "Nah, stop. We're starting again," and it's God. And then on part of that, they did give us a beasting. We went up top of the hill, and then he just started screaming at us and made us run all the way down. That was about the once, and then one time in the jungle, we just they just got us all together, and again just beasted us, just for about an hour, and that was it. But that's only 2 times. Apart from that, so out of 6 months, it was all just. But apparently, that's the same with every course as well. They do the odd sickness.
When you get to the end and you get selected, and I think you said there were you and total of 6 of you. Now you're there. Do you remember what your emotions, your feelings were like to say, hey, I just made the tip of the spear unit. I reached the best unit I could go for. And I haven't gone with him yet, but I'm here. I'm part of the team now.
Yeah, well, what it is, as I said, there was just over 200 and there's 2 courses a year, and they're always full maximum. And most of the people who go on them courses, you've got to have done a minimum of 3 years military service. You've got to be to a certain standard because you have to go away for a weekend, first of all, with the special forces. They just test, make sure you're fit enough and just to go on the course. So you get a lot of people who are already corporals, lance corporals, a fair few sergeants, and even some higher ranks. You get the odd sergeant majors on the course. So they're all seasoned people, you know, they're quite experienced out of these 200. And then to get whittled down to the last 6. But when I say 6, there was 6 SAS, but we also had 4 SBS. So it's like, I don't know, say like Delta 2 with both tier 1 special forces units. So say like we do the course together. So it would be like SEAL teams and the Delta Force all together. They're doing their training. And then at the very end, they go then do their specific training. So that you've done exactly the same selection, because it didn't used to be like that. So I did the very first one where we were combined. It was a joint one. So there was 6 SAS and 4 SBS. So altogether there was 10 of us, and there was over 200 start. So you've got in that percentage. What's that? That's 5%, isn't it?
Yep, 5%. Yep.
5% out of them 200, but them 200 were also deemed as really good soldiers from their units before they could even be attempted to come on this. So it's just amazing. And you know, you can pinch yourself and you think, right, I've got there. But literally when you get there, there's no ceremony or anything. It was just we get to there. The training officer goes, right, okay, well done. Downes, you're going to D squadron. Such and such, you're going to this squadron, you're going to this squadron, ease your berry, ease your belt. Chucked it across to us, and we was by the clock tower. And he said, right, enjoy it while it lasts. It'll be over in a flash. And I remember him saying this, and he goes, and whatever you do, lads, beat the clock. Because we've got a famous clock tower in our unit. And basically, anybody who dies on operations or in training, they get the name put on beneath the clock tower, beneath the clock, there's a plaque. They get the name put on there. So what he means by beating the clock is get through your time and obviously survive. And I didn't know this story until afterwards. I goes, what's he on about? And then somebody told us that's what it means by beating the clock. But what I do remember, I thought, well, I've got 12 years. I've got a long time. Before you know it, bang, the 12 years have gone. I'm like, wow, it just went as in the flash because the tempo of operations, you're just constantly on the go, you know what I mean? And on that clock tower, there's only been 1 year since the Second World War that there's never been a name on there. So it just shows you. And then looking back, I look like once I finished, or every now and again, over the years, I'm like, wow, whenever I go past the clock tower, you're like, wow, there's such and such a know him, know him, know him, know him. Before you know it, you just see. So I can understand what they mean now by beating the clock. Yeah, so that was it. And then you join your teams, and as I said, it's totally different. It's you go to see a sergeant major, and I was sir, and he's like, "Don't call me sir," and it's this, and it's just uh, because they haven't got time for that. As soon as you get there, you're operational.